This tutorial will cover how to access ABC-CLIO, one of the databases on the Helena High library page. The first thing you need to do is to go to the Helena High School page and scroll down, click on Library. Here you will see several different options on the right-hand side. To access the databases, we're going to go ahead and go into Student Resources. At this point, it's important to note that if you are off campus, you will need a password to access any of these databases. So that will be something that you'll need to get ahead of time. The librarians can give you those in the library. Make sure you have those passwords if you are not planning on using these databases on campus. If you're on campus, you don't need to worry about the passwords. You can just go ahead and click right in. So we're going to cover ABC-CLIO today. When you're in ABC-CLIO, the first step it will ask you probably is to click on either Helena High or Capital. Make sure you click on Helena High and remember the selection. Then you'll come to this page. When you get here, there's a couple of different ways you can enter into the databases. And remember that ABC-CLIO is a collection of databases, so you can see this big list here. The first way you can access the information is by searching all of the databases at once. So I'm going to go ahead and type in Cold War, and my results are going to look like this. So I have a list of all of the databases and the number of hits from each database. This is helpful if you're not sure which database to use, and that will give you a good plan as far as where you should go from here. So you can see that World at War happens to have over 1,200 hits when I enter in Cold War, so that's probably a good place to go. I can click right here, or I can also click down here. If I already know which database I want to use, I don't necessarily have to enter in a search term here. So I'm going to click on World at War. Once I'm in here, there's a couple of different ways to search the information within the database. I can do a quick search. And you can see that I have 1,200 results that come back when I'm looking for Cold War. And that's quite a few, so I don't know that I necessarily want to sift through 1,200 results. There's a couple of options then for how you can narrow down your results. And remember, anytime you're searching for information with research, you want to start broad and then narrow in on the specifics. So it's good to have a broad term initially. But here I can search within the results. Maybe I want to type in Karl Marx here. So once I do that, you can see I only have 5 results. So if I'm looking specifically for information on Karl Marx and his relation to the Cold War, then I have 5 good results here that I might be able to find. Or if I want to do something different, I can use the filters that are over here on the left-hand side. So there's lots of different options. I can narrow my information by those possibilities too. So once you get into one of these articles, you'll see that the search term that you typed in is going to be highlighted, and oftentimes there are other pieces of information that are hyperlinked, so things that you can connect to in other places. You can go from here and go directly to those if you would like. Oftentimes you'll see this left-hand sidebar. This is really important, and I'll show you this again here in a few minutes, but they'll often give you related entries, and don't ignore this because oftentimes you're going to have all kinds of good information that will really help you when you're looking for evidence. So the other way you can do searching within ABC-CLIO is to use these 2 tabs, Topics and Perspectives. Topics will give you, and perspectives both do this, they give you a collection of information that is sort of organized for you based on different categories. And so you can see that we've got, since we're in World at War, we've got all these different time periods. And we have a Cold War link. So I'm going to click on that and show you how that's organized. The topics categories will give you an overview which is very helpful if you're learning something new. If you don't know very much about the Cold War, to have it summarized for you in a couple of pages is really helpful. You can also use this sidebar, and you can see there are different things that are listed here. So in the topics section, they'll give you causes of the Cold War. Again, a great thing to be able to summarize. They'll give you a list of opponents, so that might be something you want to click into. They'll give you the consequences, immediate, and then they'll push out into more long-term, intermediate, and long-term. Okay. Probably you're not going to use CLIO View very much, so I would skip that. The timeline is another really good option, especially if you're trying to get a gist of what happened and when it happened. General Resources is going to give you a collection of information, reference articles that might be helpful, and remember that reference is really a good place to start if you're learning about a new topic. Also, there's a collection of biographies here, so all of these different people that are directly related to the Cold War, and then facts and figures. And the facts and figures are helpful if you're looking for just general statistics that you think might be something you want to include in your paper or in your research. Then we have media. Again, a great option if you're doing some sort of visual presentation. There's photos and illustrations. There's audio here, so if you would prefer to do some listening, you can do that to specific speeches and things like that. And then we have some videos and maps. So for those of you that maybe need that visual image, that's very helpful. And then lastly, we have documents. And typically these are primary sources. So we have a collection of speeches, we have political, government, and court documents, really good resources that you can use. So you can see there's just a ton of information in that sidebar that you want to make sure you access before you move on. Also, just one thing to note, you can listen to any of these articles if you prefer to do that instead of reading. So that's another good choice. Okay, so if we go over to the Perspectives tab, these are organized in a slightly different way. You can see the different categories here. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and note that I've got this whole section on the Cold War. And so I'm particularly interested in the fall of the Berlin Wall and that the impact of that on the Cold War. So I'm going to click into that perspective. In Perspectives, this has a lot of the same features as far as the setup, but they're organized in a different way. So you'll see that there's a key question, which might be helpful as you're trying to focus your own research, and sort of a general answer to that. Under Need to Know, this is kind of just the background information that you're going to need to know, and you'll notice that it pops out these other options. So you have a background essay, you have some reference articles similar to the ones that we may have seen on the other one on the topics list. There's biographies, there's photos and illustrations, and then there is the audio. So that list will pop up when you come into Need to Know. The other thing that you'll see here is the dilemma, and this is really helpful because it gives multiple perspectives on a topic that maybe isn't an easy yes or no answer or question. So the question here is, what factors enabled the peaceful collapse of the Berlin Wall in 1989? And obviously that's a pretty complex question. And so we have several different perspectives on that particular question, and that's really a nice feature when you're trying to get the whole picture and trying to understand different views about a topic. Investigate will give you some other questions that might relate or be interesting for you to consider. And then the Doing More section is really helpful when you're looking for more information, especially because of these online resources. So these resources will take you outside of the database. You can go and take a look at them. They're going to represent multiple perspectives, and will provide great information. So it's a good option when you're looking to branch out away from the the database. Okay. So one other thing I want to show you while we're in here is the citation information. So you can always scroll down to the bottom of these articles. You'll see that there's an MLA citation. The citation information is generally accurate, so it's probably something you want to check, but generally it's a pretty good citation. You can also switch to APA, or if you happen to be using Chicago. So you can grab your citation here, and remember that anytime you find information that you think you might want to use, it's always a good idea to grab the citation, copy and paste, put it onto your works cited page, and that way you can refer back to it later. So do that as you go so that you save yourself some stress later on. Or you can click here and click on cite this document, and you'll get your citations that way. The last thing that I want to show you is if you want to come out of World at War, you want to go to a different database, this is the quickest way to do that. You can click on the databases drop down, and then you can go ahead and move into another area that also provides information. So if I go to Issues, you'll notice here that this database is structured very similarly to the last one. You have a lot of the same features. And so once you get comfortable with one of these ABC-CLIO databases, you'll feel probably pretty good about the other ones too, and be able to maneuver from one thing to the next. So this is our tutorial on ABC-CLIO. Hope you enjoyed and got lots of good information.